Jane's been working her Madison Avenue PR job from our apartment in Swarthmore, PA. In this episode of the I Can't See You podcast, I'll talk about how Liz and I went with Jane to New York City to help her move from one apartment to another and how different things were.
From Studio C, welcome to the I Can't See You podcast with David. He can't see, but he's got a lot to say and a face for radio.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 81 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Bench on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode today. Let's call this the TO episode, and if you're not a football fan, I'm referring to Terrell Owens, who played for the Eagles for maybe a season, maybe a little longer. But I have his jersey, and I've never worn it because I got it right before he got hurt, and then I was afraid to wear it, and then he didn't play here anymore, so I'm hoping somebody that comes along and wears number 81 and I can just have the have the name changed or just take the name off. Not sure that's possible, though. But I do appreciate you joining me today. And, connect on the socials. Remember, I'm at David Benj, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I would like to connect. And if you have any questions or comments, you can certainly reach me there via any of those avenues on the socials, or as always, you can always give a call to the comment line at 646-926-6350 and leave a message. You have up to 3 minutes. You can be as brief or take all the 3 minutes, and we might use part of it or all of it in an upcoming episode. And it would be great to get your feedback on things that I've talked about, or if you have ideas for upcoming shows, or if you know somebody who might be a good guest. I'd love to hear from you. You can also certainly email ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com is the best place there. I Can't See You, it sounds like a sentence, but it's only 7 letters long. ICANTCU podcast@gmail.com. And always check out past episodes over at ican'tseeyou.com. Again, ICANTCU.com. And you can listen to past episodes and read some blog posts. And I haven't posted many blog articles in a while, but there are some good ones on there. And I am going to start to post more on the blog side of things as we move forward. And what I want to talk today about, and I've got a lot of things on my mind because I was out of town. We were in New York City for the last couple of days on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And I'm actually recording this podcast episode the day I'm releasing it, which is Thursday, the 2nd of July. We were up in New York City to help Jane move. Now, Jane has been working down here from our living room / dining room for the last 105, 106 days. She came down here in March, mid-March the 14th to be exact, and started working from our dining room table and has moved over to a desk that we have in our living room. And so the last 3 months and change, she's been paying rent to her apartment that the lease expires on the 2nd of August. She's been paying rent on that in the financial district where she was. And with a friend of hers, back in January, they found a place on the Upper East Side. Now, the intention was Jane would move in there sometime in July, and the friend and now roommate would find, someone to sublease before then, so she didn't have to pay all the rent herself. Jane wanted to room with her friend, and it just made a lot of sense, even though Jane wasn't going to be able to move in there until July. However, because of everything that's going on with the virus, who knows when Jane's going to move in. And it's a very different place, and I'll get into the meat of what I want to talk about, but I'll tell you a little about the apartment where she's moving from and to. As I've mentioned before, she's in a one-bedroom apartment in the financial district, but it's a one-bedroom, and I can't remember right now the name of basically 3 people live in this one-bedroom apartment. One person gets the bedroom, one person gets the living room, and one person gets the home office. And they put up these temporary walls. And we actually stayed overnight there Tuesday night into Wednesday before the movers came, because we were unsure of going to a hotel. So we figured, well, we'll just stay there. Jane had an air mattress, so she slept on that. Liz and I slept in her bed. which is a Casper bed, and I kind of liked it, but it was hard to judge because we're used to a big bed, and this was I guess a full or a twin, I'm not sure which, but it was enough for Liz and I, but it certainly wasn't the king size bed that we have here. And one of the issues that Jane has had a problem with the one roommate, the girl who has the bedroom, she has a different work schedule for whatever reason. Even now, when we were there, it sounded like she woke up at like 1 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon and then made breakfast or lunch, not sure which that was. And then at 10 o'clock at night, she was eating either lunch or dinner, not sure which. But by that point, Liz, Jane, and I were trying to go to sleep because the movers were coming first thing the next morning. We still had a lot of stuff to do, move stuff out of her room into the common area. And the common area was not big. It was basically the kitchen and a hallway that had the doors to the other rooms. The problem where Jane was, because she had the living room and there's a temporary wall up, the wall only goes... it doesn't go to the ceiling. It only goes so far up. So there's a gap, 4 to 6 inches at the top. So anything that goes on in the kitchen, because Jane is in the living room, anything that goes on in the kitchen is very loud. And so when her roommate was using the microwave at 10:30 at night or whatever it was, we heard the beeping and the pans and the pots and the plates and whatever. And evidently I slept through it, but at around 12:30, the roommate came out of her room and threw, I guess, ice cubes from an empty drink into the sink, which the sink is stainless steel. So, for whatever reason, I guess I slept right through that. Liz and Jane did not, and that woke them up. And that's been the issue with Jane and this roommate. And they kind of butted heads at everything because the roommate was not courteous, was not... She just didn't care about the other two. And again, the other roommate, Wayne, who has the small office, it's like a 9 by 10 room. There's no windows. There's no airflow except for what comes through the top. Same thing. He has a temporary wall that has like a barn door on it, just like Jane's has. So you can't even lock the door. The bedroom, of course, has a normal bedroom door, and you could lock it and whatever. And there's a closet in there. So it just was never an ideal situation. And Jane had to find something pretty quick last year because she got the job and only had like a week to find something, or 10 days maybe. So we found this. One thing with renting in most major cities, usually you have to show 80 times your earnings, to pay, 80 times rent as your income. And Jane, of course, could not afford it. The place rents, the one bedroom place there rents for about $5,000 a month. So fortunately, the one roommate had enough income, that Jane and the other guy, they also had enough to get, they were only requesting 40 times, rent for the, to show for earnings, to take care of that. And, so it worked out because they all needed a place and they were in a hurry. They were all in a hurry to get a place because they, the girl had some new job she was starting and she ended up getting laid off or something. I don't know the whole story. It just wasn't an ideal situation. She went in not knowing these two. And again, Wayne has been fine. It's been okay, but just all sorts of issues with the roommate. So she couldn't wait to get out of there. I guess she was, I don't want to say lucky that the pandemic came because that got her down here, because again, she's still been paying her, $1,500 or whatever dollars a month she pays, for rent, and then the additional utilities and all that sort of stuff each month. But, she hasn't been living there and taking advantage of it. And, the same thing is now going to happen probably at her new place, which is in the same ballpark price-wise, but very different. So she's moving from the financial district to the Upper East Side. The difference, as I'll get into, for me, the difference is, and it is always about me, it's a very residential place where she's moving to, a lot of apartments and things like that, a lot more businesses. That was one thing that down in the financial district on the weekends, especially like on a Sunday night when we might be up visiting Jane, nothing was open. A few restaurants might be open, but nothing else down that end of town was open. And even the Starbucks, and there's a Starbucks in her building, not physically inside the building, but you walk out her front door and are around the corner in the same structure, and you walk into the Starbucks store, from Pearl Street. I mean, even during the week, I think it closed at 7. And so, like, if she was coming home from work, most times she was home after 7, so she couldn't even run in there and get a drink if she wanted to. Where she's moving to, it's a much more residential area that has businesses catering to all those different, folks who live in the area. There's 2 markets within 2 blocks of her. Where she lived in the financial district, there was one market maybe 4 or 5 blocks away, maybe a little bit further. The Whole Foods was about a mile away. So now when she has to, I need something to get for dinner, she could get off the subway and, on her way home, just swing in and grab it, and it's good. There's restaurants all over. In fact, there's a restaurant right downstairs next door to her apartment building now. So all of that part of it will be great for her if she ever gets to live there, because the lease expires January 31st. And when we talked about moving, I started wondering, is she even going to live there? Because it, was a few $100s to move, and she doesn't have a lot of stuff, a couple of dressers and nightstand and a bed. And, and obviously, some stuff. That was the other thing. When Jane came home, she didn't know how long she'd be home. So she didn't have a suitcase. So she put as much clothes as she could in a backpack and came home. So she hasn't had a lot of clothes here because most of them were in her apartment. Now, at least she has all her clothes. And a good chunk of them are dirty too, by the way. So at least she has that. So when we thought about it, is she going to live there? Talk is that her company is going to go back into the office in September sometime. Well, the way everything is starting to reclose everywhere, is that going to happen? And if it happens, she might go up for a month or 2 and it might be open. And then, if the second wave that everybody's calling for happens, in late fall or early winter, is she going to be back down here? And are we going to be in the same boat come the end of January? Is she going to re-up in that unit? Or what are we going to do? Again, because it's a big chunk of change, and it'd be great if we didn't have to pay that. Who knows if she's going to be there? Her friend and now current roommate, her business is the company she worked for was a Broadway marketing company. And of course, there's no Broadway, so there's nothing to market. So she's also from the Philadelphia area, so she's been home, and occasionally she'll go up there, to see what's going on, or to pick something up, or to do something like that. So, but she may never get a chance to live with her friend, depending on what happens. Right now, Broadway is scheduled to come back in January. So it's just interesting. It's just a very interesting time. And did we waste a lot of time and money moving from the financial district to the Upper East Side? Would we have been better off? And again, she's paying rent on the place no matter what, because she signed the lease in January. Starting this month, she's paying rent. So this month, basically, she's paid rent for 2 places. Did we make a mistake, and should we have just brought all her stuff down here or put it in a storage unit? I mean, either way, we're going to have to move it. And the other thing is, did we, we did it. So we moved into that place. We figured we're paying for that already. Let's just move it there and see what happens come September or whenever, the business gets back open. And she's going in, then you have all those issues. Is she going to want to ride the subway each day, with all those other people on there and whatnot. So we'll come to that, I guess, when that happens, when they decide to open. But my main thing and what I want to talk about today is what I did to help in moving. And, if you want the short answer, I really didn't do much. And like I've mentioned before, when I see a table that has a whole bunch of stuff on it, I can't see any of the stuff that's on it. If I see a table that has one or two objects on it, I might not know what it is, but I can say, oh yeah, I see that piece of paper over there, or oh yes, I see that, whatever, that notebook there, or that computer or tablet or whatever it might be. But when there's a whole bunch of stuff in any given spot, whether it's a countertop or a floor, and that's what it became in Jane's apartment, because Liz was working in the kitchen, packing up, dishes and pots and pans, and going through, food, any food that was open. Obviously we toss, because Jane hasn't been there for 3 months. And, if it's open, it was either, open too long, or we didn't want to bring that home. And she certainly didn't want to take it to the other apartment, because again, she doesn't know when she's going to be in there. So Liz was doing that. Jane was going through makeup and organizing that. And again, she has a lot of stuff, because it's stuff that she's bought over the year that she's been up there. And it's stuff from work, from the different companies that she represents, with samples. So she's going through, and if it's something that's open, she had to figure, okay, was it open by me, or was it open because, we used it as a demo, in the office, or, was it used with other people, and should I just get rid of it? So Jane was doing that and going through that stuff. And I basically, had to just stay out of the way. I was, reading email, or listening to, a podcast, or reading news, or whatever. And again, when I say I was reading, on my phone, I don't read. My phone reads it to me. And actually for part of it, as I think I've mentioned, I've been doing an affiliate marketing course, just to learn a little more and be more thorough as I continue to try and grow sites that I have and sites that I'm going to develop into earning enough money that, as I've mentioned in the past, to allow Liz to not have to worry about our medical insurance through her current employer, which is the Walden School, and eventually enough money so that our insurance is paid, as well as what she makes in her salary at the Walden School. And it's a pretty big chunk of change, for affiliate marketing, but I think it's doable. And I have more confidence now than I ever have, just from hearing what other people have done and things like that. So that's our goal, is to build, and again, I've heard some people move away from the term affiliate marketing, because they're also using, display ads on these sites and things like that. So it's more like internet marketing or digital marketing, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm trying to work on. That was the class I did. Or I'm doing, and believe me, I am way in the weeds, just because, as I've mentioned, it takes me forever to do anything. So I was paying attention to this, this update from a guy called Doug Cunnington, who is the instructor for this, and trying to pay attention to this. He called it an inner circle. Anybody in the course can listen to this, watch him do. These updates that he does. I think that there's 6 total. That was the 5th one. And it just was kind of hard to do on my phone and try and, I could hear Liz and Jane talking and whatnot. And as I've mentioned before, as I've gotten older, I get more distracted by other sounds. So, when Jacob's home and typing feverishly on his keyboard, around 10 feet behind me, even though my office door is closed and his bedroom door is closed, it's still enough to rattle me, to distract me, to forget what I was thinking about. Or if I try to do a podcast, I will completely forget things. So basically, I was sitting on Jane's bed, either going through my phone doing things, or at one point taking a nap. And so that was my contribution, was staying out of the way. And it then became an issue, for me at least. There's stuff all over, because, we're packing boxes, and we're packing suitcases. The clothes went in suitcases. And and whatnot. And so it's just a matter of knowing where these things are. So I don't trip over something or knock something down that may be, stacked up that I don't see. And, so they, Liz and Jane were very conscious of making it so that, hey, if I'm going to sit on the bed here, here's a pathway around the corner and to the bed. So that was the tricky thing for me. And as I had mentioned before, I was wondering, and I was having some eye issues, and I was supposed to go to my retina guy last week, and I woke up that day and I felt horrible, and I didn't know what the story was. I was a little dizzy and a little nauseous. I didn't know if it was corona or something else. So I thought it better that I not go. And that day I felt terrible. And I was mad because I wanted to go. Like I said, I was having some issues, and fortunately, I still have my eyesight, and I'm going to him in a couple of weeks. But it was I really wanted to go to that appointment, and was mad that I wasn't up for it, and I didn't. Again, if I do have, I thought if it was corona, I certainly don't want to go in because you go into a retina specialist office, and the majority of folks in there have some sort of macular degeneration, and the average age is probably about 80. So I'm certainly always on the low end of that scale at 55, and I don't want to make somebody else if it is that I don't want to bring that on to somebody, especially in that age range, because it's certainly more difficult for them to handle it than a younger person. So my goal was to stay out of the way while I was up there at Jane's. And, as I said to Jane, if I did have some retina issue back, before I had gone or was supposed to go to that appointment, I would just stay home if I had to have it, because usually the retina surgery is bing, bang, boom. When I had it the last time, when I had the detached retina, he wanted me to have the surgery the next day, but we were flying to London in 2 days. And so once you have that surgery, you can't fly for 6 or 8 weeks. So Jane said, what will we do if you can't go? I said, what do you mean? What am I going to do while I'm there? I'm just going to be in the way. And she's like, no, you won't. I said, yeah, honestly, what am I going to do? You're going to tell me to put this over there, and I'm not going to know what this is and where over there is. My goal is to just stay out of your way when you and Mom are doing stuff. And so I thought, here I am, and as I was there all afternoon after we got there and had lunch, and I'm just sitting there on the bed going through my phone and doing all that and taking a nap, and I thought, why did I come? Because I'm just in the way, and I hated that feeling, not being helpful and not really doing anything. And again, the same thing goes, because both her roommates were there, every time we went out into the common area, if I went to use the bathroom, I tried not to touch anything other than to flush the toilet. I tried not to do anything. And then, of course, you wash your hands and then try not to touch anything once you wash your hands and get back into Jane's room, which theoretically hasn't been touched for, 3 months. Now, her air conditioning unit was on, so somebody went in there to turn it on. And I get that. That's, again, Wayne has a room with no air circulation, so I'm sure he needed that unit to be on to cool his room. So, constantly washing our hands in there, again, feeling like, we were wearing the mask when we were in the common area, even though Wayne was never, I don't think we ever interacted with him. And even when Candace was out, the animosity between Candace and Jane, I don't think they said anything. Liz was in the kitchen, I think, when she came out of her bedroom, and she didn't even know who Liz was, which was weird because, we've seen Candace before and interacted with her before. So it was kind of weird that she didn't know who Liz was. She's just a little off, to put it nicely. So, I don't want to go out into the common area to do anything because I'm afraid I'm going to touch something and I got to wash my hands. Same thing. I thought, well, maybe I can go for a walk around the block. But again, not knowing how close I am to someone or if someone's coming, I figured, I don't want to do that either. And then, of course, getting on the elevator, touching all that stuff. So, so the one nice thing, we did have a chance. Liz and Jane got done, early evening, I guess, doing, boxing everything up. And then the next day we had to move some stuff from Jane's room into the common area so the movers could get to the furniture that we were moving. The stuff that was in Jane's room that we moved into the common area was stuff we were going to bring home. Again, mostly her clothes and a few other things. So because there was some time, I said to Liz, why don't we go out? Let's just go for a little walk and just walk around the area. Again, because it is the financial district. She's maybe a block from Wall Street. So we got outside. Liz said, where do you want to go? I said, let's go over to the river. The East River was only a block or two away. So we walked down Water Street and then to Wall and cut down Wall and then walked down to the East River, took a selfie there. And again, you follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/DavidBenge. You can see that picture of Liz and I in front of the water. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see where else we went that night. And again, it's instagram.com/DavidBenge. We walked back up Wall Street and walked all the way up Wall Street to the stock exchange, took a picture there. So I'm going to miss doing that because that's what I love that area for that. And again, it's a very quiet end of town when it's not a business day. When during the week, it's, all sorts of people and, out on the street, all the stores and restaurants are open. And again, this is a weird time for that because, not all the restaurants were open when we were there. And there's some things that are down there. We had And Pizza for lunch. There's not one up by Jane on the Upper East Side. So, Jane's going to miss that because that was one of her go-to places on nights that she worked really long and, didn't want to go home and have to make dinner. It's one of those places where you can walk in and you order a pizza. You can get exactly what you want on it. She loved the vegan cheese from there. So, she would get, the vegan cheese and, within 8 or 10 minutes, you're in and out with your pizza. And, she'd go home and eat it and, do a couple of things and go to bed and get up the next day and start all over. So she's going to miss that. There's a Joe and the Juice, which there are not many of them on the island. So I think there's one either in Grand Central. I think she found another one that's close to her current work, but the work office is moving at some point. So, she won't be near that. Even at work. So she's going to miss that because that was a place she liked. There was also a La Colombe that she would stop into to buy. She liked some of their canned drinks, and I don't remember what they were called. But that was another favorite place. And I know there's some more of them. I think there's actually more La Colombes in New York City than there are in Philadelphia where it started. So, she'll miss some of those things. But again, the fact that there are so many more restaurants in her area now. We had Pick a Bagel yesterday, which is her favorite bagel place. We got that before we jumped in the car and came home. And, there's a couple of them close by. There's other pizza places. There's, as I mentioned before, the restaurant just downstairs out her front door and, right next door. It's an Italian place that she's already eaten in once with her roommate and her family. So there's all sorts of, TD Bank where she banks is right close by. There's two, one on the way from the subway, one on the way going the other way. If she wanted to go down to a different, another restaurant that she likes, which I'm forgetting the name, just a lot more. And again, the fact that there's two supermarkets within 2 or 3 blocks, and one is literally, at the end of the block and across the street. So it's very close. And, if she needs something, whether it's, produce or, something quick, they have hot foods in there that she could get. And then a couple blocks down from that is Eli's Market. I think the guy's name is Eli Zabar or Zabar. He's got some restaurants. In fact, there's a restaurant of his that we ate at right past the market. In fact, I want to say around 80th 80th Street or 79th Street, I forget where, but he owns like the first 3 or 4 businesses on that block, and maybe he owns more. We just didn't walk down further. It's Eli's Market, Eli's Flowers, and Eli's whatever the restaurant was that we ate at. So all very close, which is that part is much nicer than the options that she had down in the financial district. Again, Whole Foods is not close. It's probably about the same distance. The one that's closest to her is probably about the same distance as she was now, which is about a mile away. And that was one of the places that she liked because she knew they had all the different things that she got, whether it's the dry goods or canned goods or whatever. They had those, and not to mention the stir fry noodles that we use when we make stir fry here. In fact, Jane would buy them for us and bring them home when she would come home from school, or we would go to pick her up or whatever. And now that she's working up there, same thing. So Jane has lived in Lower Manhattan in the financial district since 2015, since she went to school up there, because that's where the college was. So she's very familiar with that area, and it's not that it's a lot different up in the Upper East Side, but it'll be different for her because of that. And it'll be different for us when we go up there, because obviously we're going to go a different way. We're not going to come through the Holland Tunnel because that's all the way down at the bottom of the island. We'll probably go through the Lincoln Tunnel. So it'll be a different way for us to go, different way for us to go home. Unfortunately, we're not going to pass La Durée, which is my favorite for the macaron, which I absolutely love. And we didn't go to yesterday because we ended up getting in the Holland Tunnel pretty quick, and we couldn't go the way we normally went. One street was blocked off. We're not sure why. But yeah, La Durée is at 398 West Broadway, in case you're in New York and you want to go. Not just for the macaron. We've eaten lunch there, a few times, and very good. And we just it's just one of my favorite places to go when we're up there. Whether it's to just grab, a few macarons for the ride, or, have lunch or brunch. So all that's different. So there's new places. In fact, yesterday when we were driving to or from the apartment, we passed J.G. Mellon, which is a hamburger place that Bobby Flay had gone to in one of those episodes he did with his daughter. So that looked like a place that, one day we'll try, and it's, again, 2 blocks away. So there's all sorts of great things over there that she didn't have access to before. Where she was, down in the financial district, there were 3 or 4 restaurants within a few blocks. Now there's a lot more. There's just so many more. And, and that's the beauty of it. So it's going to be different for me because going for a walk, there's not that landmark. We're not as close to the water. Jane is closer to 3rd Ave, so you got to walk, well past 1st Ave to get to the water. There's not the financial district. There's not the stock exchange. There's not the Bull. There's not those, like Zuccotti Park, and it's not. We're not going to be walking over to, over to the. Oh my gosh, and I'm forgetting. Brookfield or Westfield to go shopping or get a baguette from Le District, the French market that's there, or Italy, which I guess is in Westfield. Places we love to go, but besides those, and those places closed early, like on a Sunday, again, closed at 6 or 7 o'clock. So, if it was after 7 and we wanted to eat, we couldn't go there because they were closed. And, so our options were limited on a Sunday night. But, if we were getting in the car, going to eat something and then go, kind of had to, Joe's Pizza was, a good option. Or I know on other things we've had, a burger at one of the burger places close by. But otherwise, there's, not a lot down that end that's open on a Sunday night. Where she's at now, again, very different. So it will be different, and it'll be interesting to see if I go up on my own, again, if she ever lives there. If I go up on my own, how will I get there? How will that be different? If I go to, it's substantially further if I go to from Penn Station, I still, I guess, would be able to walk to her office where it is now. That I could do. But even when her office moves, I have to jump on the subway to meet her where they moved to, which I believe is supposed to be down at One World Trade. Not walkable like it was when I went up this year for her birthday, and I went to B&H Photo, and then to the Winter Village, and then over to her, on Madison Avenue. It's not going to be walkable like that. It's all the way down. World Trade is down, close to the bottom of the island. So, it'll be interesting to see. Again, for now she's here, and she'll be here. And that has. Everybody has been affected to one degree or another. The fact that I'm home every day isn't different for me. The fact that Liz and Jane are home all day, that is different. And the fact that all four of us are here, kind of, as I've said in the past, kind of have, not interrupted our plans, but we were, as I mentioned a couple of episodes ago in our anniversary episode, our plans were to, get our bathrooms redone here and then get our kitchen redone. And we certainly can't do, take out one bathroom when there's four people living here. It just wouldn't, one bathroom for the four of us I don't think would work. And you certainly, with all of us living here, not really eating out much, you can't take the kitchen out and redo that because, we're eating most of our meals here now. We have, because we were, working all day up in New York when we got home, and Jacob was working at Target, Liz went and picked Jacob up and then went and got Chipotle for us all. And, it's only like the second or third time we've eaten out. And we didn't eat there. She brought it home. So we've had pizza out once. We've had Chipotle. And on our anniversary, we had takeaway Chinese. So 3 times in, since the middle of March. So that's not a lot. So, certainly not going to knock out the kitchen, when all of us are in here trying to get into the kitchen to make lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever. So, so we have to wait. And, we're happy to have Jane here because that was, walking out and about in New York for me was, I don't want to say stressful, but, when we were moving stuff, Liz gave me gloves and I started pushing one of the carts, helping her push one of the carts that had, all of her stuff on that was coming to our house. And Liz was pulling and I was pushing and she's like, "You don't have your gloves on." And, I had one hand on the cart and one hand on my cane. Well, sometimes when we were making turns, I had to switch my cane and my to one hand to the other so I could use the other hand to guide, how I was pushing. So no matter what, whether I had gloves on or not, I was still touching my cane. So did it matter that I didn't have gloves on? I just made sure I didn't touch my face. And then as soon as we got back into the apartment, I washed my hands and I, Windexed my cane. And then when we finally got into the car, I used a Clorox wipe for my cane and a hand wipe for my hands. So that part, was something that we're not too used to here because we rarely go out of the apartment. And when we do, when we go get the mail, both Liz and I go. I don't touch anything. Liz touches the mail and brings it back and opens it up. And if it's a package that has come, Liz will open the package, take whatever's in it out. But in New York, again, even in her apartment, we don't know what, if we touch the refrigerator and we touch this, if we touch any doorknob. So Liz was the one that constantly was using the glove to touch a lot of stuff so she wasn't washing her hands every 5 minutes. And, so who knows? And that was, everybody that listens knows how much I love going to New York City. And it was just a different feel. And I don't want to say it was sad because I really wanted to go to B&H Photo, don't get me wrong. Because I'm dying to get some podcasting gear, as I've mentioned before. But I want to touch it, and I don't want to go now to do that because, again, I don't know who else has touched it. I don't want to have to take it from someone and do that. So we didn't do that. And, at least I got to walk around, Wall Street and the financial district and down to the water. And that was the big takeaway for me. Poor Liz did all the work. The movers helped us move some of the stuff that we were bringing home. And they were great. And I don't remember the name of the company. I'll get it from Jane and put it in the show notes, but I would certainly recommend them. And, so it wasn't our typical trip to New York where we go and we pick a place to eat and, they don't have indoor dining. Now they did have outdoor dining, and the place that's next door to Jane, for example, had a whole bunch of tables outside on the sidewalk because the sidewalk is wide where she is. And so that was nice that, they'll be able to accommodate folks. But again, when we were leaving yesterday, there was a big thunderstorm that went through. So who's going to want to eat outside while the wind is blowing the rain sideways and whatnot? You're not going to want to eat outside with that. So, again, wearing my West Coast Video shirt, I feel for all those businesses that, have to adapt like that, and they're just not all going to make it. Earlier in the week, New Jersey restaurant owners thought they were going to open up, for indoor dining this week. And so I'm sure they ordered all sorts of food because you can't wait till the last minute if you're going to open on the 2nd or 3rd of July. And then, the governor said, no, we're not going to do indoor dining. So what do you do with all that food that you've ordered? Granted, the frozen stuff is going to stay frozen, but if you order fresh stuff, what are you going to do with it? It's going to go to waste. So, I certainly feel for them. And that offer that I've made a few episodes back, if you have a small business, and I'd certainly be happy to plug it for you. And no matter where you are, you don't have to be in the Philadelphia area, wherever you are. If you're open now and could use help, I'd certainly be happy to tweet out your information and, and again, even talk about you here. And somebody reached out, a hockey coach reached out to me on Instagram, but he wasn't quite open yet. So I said, once you're open, let me know, and I'd be happy to give you a plug. And I believe he's in New Jersey. So, and I thought it was cool. He's a hockey coach who is also blind, which I love the idea of trying to do that. But again, the psoriatic arthritis says something else. So that was our trip to New York, and again, very different. I don't want to say disappointing. I knew what it was going to be going into it. Did I feel bad that I really didn't help out much? Absolutely. As I've mentioned before, I like to do as much as I can to help out and be able to do things. And I just didn't. Obviously I helped push the carts and carry a suitcase or backpack and some other stuff. Sure, I did that. But in the scheme of things, it was a very small drop in the bucket to what Liz did. Liz is always the driving force of that. Jane didn't even do as much as Liz, and Liz is just good with that stuff. And and I felt bad. But I tried to stay out of the way, like I said, and I think I accomplished that. So that's all I have for you this week. I do have some guests that I want to bring on. I just haven't been able to connect between different scheduling issues with me, being in New York and whatnot. It just hasn't worked. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will have something. Again, a lot on my mind between New York and things going on here in the condo that are very interesting, to say the least. As Alex told me, maybe it's a good sitcom that I should write. Not quite sure how to write a sitcom, but I think it would be funny, actually. With anything. And I always thought that the Salon Supplies and Interiors would be a good sitcom, but with the different characters that we had there. It's just a matter of doing it like anything else. Like anything, you got to take action. So that will wrap up episode 81 of the I Can't See You podcast. I really appreciate you listening. Remember, if you want to help out the show, there are links on the website to Amazon. If you're buying at Amazon, I am an Amazon associate. If you click on my links or type in ican'tseeyou.com/Amazon, you will be whisked away to Amazon's homepage, and anything you buy while you're there, I will get a little commission. It doesn't cost you anything more, and I would really appreciate it and would help us out a little bit. So again, ican'tseeyou.com/Amazon. I can't see you is 7 letters, but it sounds like a whole sentence. ICANTCU.com/Amazon. And again, I appreciate that. I appreciate you listening today, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks again for listening, and take care.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast. Follow David on Twitter. He is at David Bench.